it was after this album that he started to get a lot of hate. And that was probably what messed him up the most, was he he wasn't understanding why everybody was necessarily coming at him for no reason. And I understand. I don't totally understand. I don't get why at times when it comes to artists like that, the mainstream doesn't really look at the person, or even in his instant, they have never interviewed him or actually sat down and talked to him, and people would be writing articles about what a terrible person he is and why he did this and a bunch of stuff like that. And it got to him, and he got super depressed and didn't understand why he was getting so much hate. And at the same time, I've seen that. I know that a lot of people don't like Machine Gun Kelly, but in the documentary they kind of get a contrast. They show that it's kind of, you got it either way. You either got it on both ends of the spectrum. You got people that absolutely hate Machine Gun Kelly because of who he is and his music, and they just don't like him for no real apparent reason, or you have people that absolutely love his music, and I guess I would fall into that category. It doesn't make sense to me personally, because I feel like at one point some people just don't enjoy the music because of the actual artistry. They try building up an image of the artist in their head on who they actually are. And in all reality, you don't know who they are. You can only take so much information from what you get from the mainstream news outlets, or what you see on social media, or what they put out, and as a musician in particular. And I feel like people jumped to opinions on his music and thought that he was a sellout. It had caused him to basically doubt himself, or not doubt himself, but it caused a lot of mental distress, because he was getting so much hate. And nowadays, the smallest person can basically be amplified by social media depending on their opinion and if other people agree. And sadly, most of the time, the vocal minority are the ones that get noticed and blow up when it comes to stuff like that. And it was in between these two albums. He toured and continued to work on the second album, but they actually decided to spend more time on it. But in these two albums, around that time, in the documentary, he talks about how he actually tried to commit suicide, and during it, he was on the phone with Megan Fox, and he ended up, after that moment, decided to basically quit drugs, because he realized it was putting a rift between him and his loved ones, between his girlfriend or wife, I don't know if they were married at the time, and his daughter. So as of right now, I believe he is drug free. I think the only thing he really does is smoke tobacco, as far as I'm aware. And it caused quite a issue. And he even says that in the documentary, that especially after the reception of Hotel Diablo, and it not necessarily getting the media attention that he would have thought it was going to, and he didn't understand why his stuff wasn't getting out to the world, he kind of went downhill, and he really got into drugs super heavily, and was probably at one of his lowest points when it came to addiction. But he has admitted to being addicted to Adderall. He smokes cannabis very often. Cannabis, weed, whatever. He smokes weed. I think he's talked about doing heroin and cocaine and Percocets and all sorts of stuff. And he decided that it was time for him to move on from that portion of his life, because he realized that it was having a negative effect between the people he loved, and he realized he couldn't be that way.